I always thought I had a normal life, a good life. I had amazing friends and lived in an awesome house with a pool. I always thought that I lived with the greatest parents in the world, but apparently they were hiding some pretty dark secrets. By dark secrets, I wish I was talking about hidden siblings or credit card debts. In reality, my loving parents were actually my kidnappers, who hid me away from my real mom for years. It's a little more complicated than that, though. Before I start, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Otherwise, your favorite celebrity will be kidnapped. Maybe if someone subscribed to this channel a little sooner, I wouldn't be in this mess. I don't remember too much from when I was really young, except that we moved around a lot. My first memories started when I was around 3 or 4, and I just remember moving to a new house every few months. Our moves were always sudden, and sometimes I would have to leave right in the middle of something. I always thought it was perfectly normal, but in retrospect, it was all a little weird. I remember this one time in particular very vividly. I was going to a birthday party of my friend from the park. I can't even remember her name, but I can remember that it was the first birthday party I was ever attending. There was cake and balloons, and they even hired a face painter. I was in the middle of getting my face painted like a tiger when my parents just picked me up and told me we had to go. I was crying so much, but they just picked me up and left the party without so much as saying goodbye to the birthday girl. I cried so hard the paint got all over my clothes. Luckily, the painter only managed to get half of my face. My dad always said he had to move for work, and I didn't really question it further. Still, I missed out on a lot of things kids got to do. I didn't go to school for a really long time, and I never really made any friends in my childhood. I got so used to moving every few months that I didn't even unpack my room. I wasn't bitter about it, though. If my parents said we had to move for work, I just believed them. As I got older, these random moves got much less frequent. After we managed to stay in the same place for a whole year, my parents decided to buy a house. It was my dream come true. It was huge. 4-bedroom, a pool, a trampoline, and it was in a neighborhood full of kids my age. I was just about to start middle school when we got to the house, so it was the perfect time for me to really make some friends. Among all the friends I made, my best friend was Susan. Susan and I loved watching YouTube videos together. We loved watching true dramas like on My Story Animated, among others. We came across one video that seemed to change our lives forever. Our favorite channel had posted a video about a girl who went missing over 10 years ago. One day, a 2-year-old had been playing out in the garden when she just completely vanished. The story was so eerie and a little sad. A woman had just lost her husband in an accident. Her daughter was all she had, and then she vanished from her life without a trace when she was playing in her own backyard. Officers made this a cold case years ago, but the mom was still looking. She made billboards and traveled around, never giving up hope. The video transitioned to a slide showing a photo of the girl when she was taken, and a Photoshop picture of what she would look like now. Susan immediately paused the video. "Carly, that looks just like you." "Yeah, what are the odds?" I tried to laugh off. "Pretty slim," she said. She was right. That girl in that photo was undeniably me. We spent the next few hours looking up more about this story. It turned out she disappeared on my birthday, was the same age as me, and even had the same birthmark. When it was time to eat dinner with my parents, Susan and I were uncharacteristically quiet. "So, girls, what have you been up to all day?" my mom asked. "Nothing." She asked why we were acting so weird, and we just told her we were fine. I asked her if I could spend the night at Susan so we could go study. Susan and I continued to research the topic at our house and found only more incriminating evidence. We didn't know what we should do, so we asked Susan's older brother for some advice. At first, he thought we were being crazy. But when he read into it, he said we needed to do something. He was going to make a call to some of his cop friends and get more information on this missing girl. Months had passed, and I started forgetting all about the searches. Maybe it was because I was getting so invested in high school, but part of me just didn't want it to be true. Ignoring it was easier than anything else. Susan and I were eating lunch when a teacher came and approached me. She told me my parents were here to pick me up for a doctor's appointment. I didn't know I had a doctor's appointment that day. When I arrived at my parents' car, it was clear something was wrong. When I got into the car, I noticed there were blankets covering loads of stuff in the back seat. There were bags packed, and both of my parents were visibly distraught. "This is an awful lot of stuff to go to the doctor's," I said. My parents looked at me and said that my father's brother had gotten into a very bad accident, and they didn't want me to find out through the teacher. We were going to drive a few states away and take care of him for the time being. I didn't even know I had an uncle. There was obviously something fishy about this. They told me to text Susan to let her know I'd be staying with my uncle for a bit. After I did that, my father took my phone out of my hand. I asked why he was taking it, and he simply said that my uncle's pacemaker was disrupted by certain electrical signals. This meant I couldn't use Wi-Fi the entire time we stayed with his family. This didn't seem right to me, but when I tried to argue that hospitals had Wi-Fi, they just shut me down and told me to behave. Because they were so upset, I just let it go. I assumed we would only be gone for a couple of days, but days dragged on into weeks. Even if I had my phone on me, I doubt it would work. We were in the middle of nowhere. My uncle was virtually a zombie. He stayed in bed, surrounded by lots of beeping machines. My parents left for work religiously every day, and I was forced to wander this cabin alone most of the days. It seemed weird how my parents would just remove me from school and cut off my contact with everyone. When they were gone, I searched the house for my cell phone or a computer. I couldn't even find a landline. I was a prisoner here. One day, when I was exploring, I found a secret door under one of the carpets in my parents' bedroom. I found a secret room, and my heart sank when I saw what was inside. There was a landline, a PC, a whole bunch of cell phones, and a full box of old ID cards. That wasn't the weirdest part, though. All over the room, there were newspaper clippings about the very kidnapping that Susan and I had seen. The most recent date of the paper was only from a couple weeks ago. The title read, "New tips on a missing persons case brings us one step closer to bringing a missing girl home." The photo on the page was not photoshopped. It was me. Underneath me was a picture of my parents. Apparently, the couple that I had known as my mom and dad were actually my kidnappers. Before I got a chance to read more, I heard a bang. "You weren't supposed to see that," a voice said behind me. Before I could see who it was, everything went black. I don't know how long I was out for, but I woke up in my bedroom. I tried to leave, but I was locked inside. I cried and banged while my kidnappers showed up at the door. I screamed at them for lying to me my whole life. All the moving and mystery, it suddenly made sense. They didn't just steal me from my mother, they stole my childhood from me. They seemed genuinely hurt by my harsh words. They tried to tell me how they weren't able to have a baby. They were actually very close friends of my birth parents. Right before my birth father had his accident, he told them that he was afraid of my birth mother. He claimed that she had been acting very suspicious and he feared for his life. She was very mentally ill and he didn't think it was safe for me to stay with her. The day where he was supposedly going to give her divorce papers and take me away, he mysteriously had an accident. "We didn't have any other choice," the woman I thought was my mother said. "We promised your birth father that we would protect you at any costs." She was a very dangerous woman who had a lot of connections with law enforcement. Her whole family was made up of cops. They would never go against her. My parents feared a court case may push her to hurt me, so they kidnapped me and gave up their lives to try to give me the closest thing to a childhood I could have. They promised to be more open with me, but some things they kept from me to keep me safe. Now, it all made so much sense. I started to cry and promised to do as they said so we could keep our little family together. After a few months, I got used to our quiet life together. I cut my hair and used a new name, but I still tried to preserve parts of the old me. Even though my parents specifically asked me not to talk to Susan, I followed her very popular Instagram and YouTube channels. She had so many followers and her content was amazing. One day, I reached out to her. I used a pen name, but I couldn't just not talk to my best friend. To her, I was just a stranger, telling her how awesome her latest video was. At first, I thought Susan was going to ignore me, but eventually we started talking like the good old days. After a while, I got comfortable and let my guard down. I forgot that I wasn't supposed to be talking to her. In her latest post about a soda drinking challenge, I asked if she remembered the time I spilled grape soda all over my white dress in the cafeteria. Immediately, she wrote back, "OMG, I knew it was you! Where are you? It's been years! I can get the cops to you!" I panicked, realizing my mistake. I was so sad to lose Susan a second time, but I deleted all of my social media accounts. I didn't bring it up to my parents, fearing that I would lose my internet privileges again. That was not the smartest decision. A few days later, cops were banging on my cabin door. Who knew reminiscing about my cafeteria mishap would have a SWAT team at my door? Susan had called the authorities and they were able to track my IP address. My parents were put in handcuffs, and my birth mother had rushed up and hugged me. I was hysterical. Everyone kept asking if I was hurt, but I was just upset they were dragging my parents away. My birth mother was hugging me and saying how long and hard she had looked for me. She turned to my parents and yelled at them about how horrible they were for robbing her of her motherhood so soon after her husband's death. Her anger soon turned into fear when they shouted back that her husband had never died. That's just what she wanted people to think. When the cops asked what they meant, they told them to check out the second bedroom in the back, my uncle's bedroom. My birth mother tried to run away, but the cops stopped her. Apparently, my sick uncle had actually been my father all along. After he asked my birth mother for divorce papers, she staged his death. But my kidnappers had actually saved him and had hired people to care for him for years. They decided on the last move that we should all move in to take care of him and that they would explain everything about my past when I was old enough. Your father was a great man, our best friend, they said. Despite whether or not they did the right thing, my parents were arrested for kidnapping on the spot. Because of the discovery of my birth father, who was reported dead, my birth mother was brought in for questioning and later charged with attempted murder. When the cops asked if I had anywhere I could go, I decided to give Susan a call. She was so happy to see me. So much had changed, but we were able to go back to our friendship as though it was normal. We are currently working on an indie documentary about my life and are both in film school together. I still visit my parents in prison from time to time, and my birth father in the hospital, but he's not getting any better. I've seen my birth mother a couple of times since everything happened, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to have a relationship with her.
Hi, I'm Rena, and I'm one of the most popular girls in my high school. I'm the top in my class, and all the girls are jealous of me because boys are always trying to flirt with me. But they can try their luck. I'm not the easy type. But I have a little secret. I work as a maid at a maid cafe as a part-time job to support my family. My dad was a jerk. He left us when I was 5 years old to be with another woman. Since then, my mother was the only one supporting me and my little brother. She had to work very hard to keep the food on the table. I wanted to help my mother. That's why I started this job. We have to dress in pretty costumes and act cute to please our customers. It's not an easy job, let me tell you. Men drool over you fantasizing about you in that costume. Yuck. Well, I didn't mind it. If only the young hot ones flirted with me. Actually, I enjoyed that. But I kept my job a secret because, come on, who wants to be exposed as a maid and teased by the whole school? Until one day, we had a pink day at work. We had to dress in super sexy maid costumes, and they had to be pink. I was feeling myself in that costume. I was sure I'd get many tips, so I could buy my mom a present for her upcoming birthday. But suddenly, I saw him sitting there on the table, at the corner. It was Jordan, the hottest guy in our high school. He was this new rich kid that transferred to our school. All the girls were going crazy for him. He looked at me, shocked. I froze. He saw me in a super short dress and as a maid. Jordan's shocked face suddenly turned into an evil smirk. He waved at me saying, "Hey, hot maid, I'd like to make an order." That jerk! He was making fun of me. I walked slowly towards him and stood beside him. He was checking me out. I wanted to slap him in the face, but I said in a cute voice, "Yes, sir. What can I get for you?" I was screaming inside, but I had to act cool, or otherwise the manager is gonna fire me. Then I heard him saying, well, who knew that the most popular girl in school is actually a maid? Not any maid, a hot one." Then he had that creepy smirk on his face. He continued, "I assume that you want your little secret to stay hidden, right? If you want me to keep my mouth shut, then you'll follow my orders from now on." I didn't have a choice. I couldn't risk my reputation at school and lose my job because of that jerk Jordan. That's why I said in a low, soft voice, "Yes, sir, I'll do whatever you want." Then he stood up and leaned close to me and whispered in my ears, said, "Good girl, I'll see you tomorrow." That Jordan jerk! Who does he think he is? I have to follow his orders now. Maybe he'll make me his personal maid. I got home that day tired and went to sleep early so I wouldn't think about him, nor what will happen next tomorrow. When I woke up in the morning, I found a text from Jordan saying, "Bring your prettiest costume with you. You got some work to do today." That walking, talking garbage! I'll slap him right in the face! I went to school nervous, afraid that he's gonna expose my secret in front of everyone. But luckily, I didn't see him the whole day and nothing bad happened. But when it was time to go home, I saw him at the school gate, waiting for me. He waved and said, "Here's my pretty maid. Ready for your job? I got some cleaning to do at home. Will you join me?" Of course, I couldn't say no to him, so I just nodded. Suddenly, a big fancy car pulled over and the driver got out of his seat to open the door, and he said to Jordan, "Sir," and held the door open to him. I was shocked. I knew that they were rich, but I didn't know that they were filthy rich. We were in the poorer side of Los Angeles, and his car was huge, and we sat together in the back seat. He sat close to me and put his hand on my thigh. At that moment, I didn't feel angry. I looked at his face, and he was really handsome. This was the first time that I noticed that he has really muscular arms and a really strong chest. I just couldn't stop thinking about what kind of orders he's gonna give me. When we arrived at his house, it was a huge mansion near Hollywood with a big gate. Wow, they're really filthy rich! We stepped out of the car and he took me to his big room. There he asked me to change into my costume. I changed in the bathroom, and when I got out, Jordan was sitting on the couch with his shirt half buttoned so I could see his muscular chest. He looked at me with that flirtatious smirk on his face and said, "Oh, here comes my maid. I'll try not to be tough on you today since it's your first day here." Then he asked me to bring him some ice from the fridge and put some in his drink. I did as he asked, but I was leaning to put it in his drink. He grabbed my arm and said, "Hey, let's see if the ice tastes any different when it's not in a drink." Then he sat me on his lap. It was so cold, but I didn't mind because he was staring straight into my eyes. He was so handsome that I couldn't resist him. Then he pulled me softly by my hair and said, "There she is, my good maid. You succeeded in your first task. I should reward you." This went on for a while, until his ex-ho girlfriend showed up. Her name was Angela. She's from the same town that Jordan came from. She was also hot with long black hair. She kept staring at me the whole time and following me around. I didn't know what she wanted until one time she grabbed me by the arm in the bathroom and said, "Listen, you little hoe, I know what you've been doing with Jordan. I should warn you, leave him alone or I'll expose your little secret to the whole school." I was shocked and super angry. Did he tell her about me and about my secret job after all I did with him? I wanted to know the truth. That's why I went to his house before he got home. But what I saw there left me in shock. It was that hoe Angela dressed as a kitty cat, lying on his bed with her phone. I screamed at her, "What are you doing dressed like a stupid cat, you fatty?" She screamed back, "I told you to leave him alone. He's mine, you pig." I jumped at her, trying to rip her stupid cat ears off, and then she grabbed me by my hair and pushed me back. I couldn't believe it. She needed to get a life. As we were fighting, Jordan entered the room with his shirt off. We stopped for a moment to look at his hot body. We heard him saying, "What are you two doing here?" I replied, "I came to surprise you, then saw this hoe pretending to be attractive." She grabbed my hair again and said, "Shut up, loser! You're not supposed to be here. I'm the one for him." And we continued fighting, and Jordan stood there looking at us with a smirk on his face and then came closer and said, "Girls, there's enough of me for you two. No need to fight." He clearly enjoyed seeing two half-naked girls fighting over him. After that day, my relationship with Angela got better. We became, I guess you could say friends. Frenemies. We started showing up at Jordan's room at the same time, and we even sometimes went there to sit and watch TV together. Everything seemed good until one day Angela said, "Hey, don't you sometimes wonder what Jordan keeps in this big room? Let's take a look." I was also curious to know. That's why I agreed and started opening the drawers and looking around. We found a lot of stuff in there. Different, attractive costumes, women's underwear, and also provocative male costumes. Wow, so Jordan also enjoyed wearing costumes? Why didn't he wear that stuff around us? Then we decided to check his MacBook. Well, If you were us, you'd also want to know what a hot guy like Jordan keeps in there. His laptop was without a password. It wasn't locked. Wow, he really thinks that no one can touch his stuff? We found one particular folder with a weird name. It was named My Slaves, with peach emojis? That's interesting. Slaves? Who does he think he is? We immediately opened it, and you wouldn't believe what was in it. That jerk! He has videos of me wearing different costumes. And one of me and Angela, when we're doing all that stuff together, he was filming us the whole time. And we found out more shocking stuff. A video of him in a costume with a guy. Why was he filming all that stuff secretly? Is this his secret guilty pleasure? Or was he planning to blackmail us? At that moment, we knew what to do. Well, of course, we enjoyed being with him since he's very hot and charming, but filming us in secret, that's a douche move. We copied all the videos on a USB drive and deleted every piece of evidence on his laptop. Then we sat there waiting for him to come home. When he arrived and saw us there, he said, "Here are my beautiful ladies. Did you miss me?" Then Angela replied, "Oh yeah, we missed you. And we'd like to see you in a costume too. Why don't you change? You have a lot of them." The look on his face changed suddenly and he said, "What do you mean? I don't do costumes." I smiled and said with a soft voice, "Oh yeah, I thought you were into them and into boys too. Why didn't you share your little secret with us, you slave?" Jordan froze right there. He couldn't say a word. He knew that we discovered his little secret and we could make him do whatever we want. I came closer to him and whispered in his ear, "So I think I might need a handsome maid now. What do you think?" Jordan screamed, "You little!" Then I said, "Watch your language, pretty boy." I have to admit, it felt good to have control over him. He can do whatever I want. Angela and I became really good friends, closer than ever. We enjoyed bossing him around. It's kind of fun to control others who have tried to take advantage of you. As for my job, I quitted. I don't need to work there anymore. Jordan buys me whatever I want, and he even gives me money sometimes. Life's good after all. Another day in sunny